There are few weapons in human history surrounded by as much fear, controversy, and misunderstanding as the neutron bomb. It sounds like something pulled from science fiction, a device that can wipe out life while leaving cities standing. But unlike the myths and movie exaggerations, the neutron bomb was very real, very engineered, and very controversial. To understand what a neutron bomb truly is, we need to step back into the darkest decades of the 20th century, the Cold War, when the world stood on the edge of annihilation. After the devastation of World War II, the world entered a new kind of conflict. Not direct global combat, but a silent standoff between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Both possessed nuclear weapons. Both were building more, and both were searching for strategic advantages that could tip the balance of power without triggering total global destruction. Traditional nuclear bombs, like those dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were designed to unleash massive blast waves and extreme heat. Entire cities were flattened. Firestorms consumed everything. Radiation poisoned survivors. The goal was overwhelming destruction. But military planners began asking a disturbing question. What if there were a way to eliminate enemy troops and armored divisions without completely destroying the infrastructure you might later want to occupy? That question led to the development of what is formally known as the Enhanced Radiation Weapon, ERW, more commonly called the neutron bomb. Unlike traditional atomic bombs, which maximize blast and heat, a neutron bomb is specifically engineered to maximize neutron radiation. It is a type of thermonuclear weapon, meaning it uses nuclear fusion, but its design deliberately reduces the explosive force while increasing the output of high-energy neutrons. To understand how terrifying that is, we must understand radiation. When a nuclear explosion occurs, it releases several forms of energy: blast pressure thermal radiation, heat electromagnetic pulse (EMP), and nuclear radiation. Nuclear radiation includes gamma rays and neutrons. In most nuclear weapons, the blast and heat dominate the destruction. But neutrons, tiny, uncharged particles found in atomic nuclei, can penetrate deeply into materials and living tissue. Neutrons are especially deadly because they can pass through walls, vehicles, and even armored tanks more easily than blast or heat. When they strike atoms inside the human body, they disrupt molecular structures, damage DNA, and destroy cells at the atomic level. High doses cause acute radiation sickness within hours. Even higher doses can kill within minutes. The neutron bomb was engineered to maximize this effect. Instead of creating a massive mushroom cloud that obliterates buildings, a neutron bomb produces a comparatively smaller explosion. Structures may remain standing, tanks may remain intact, equipment may still function, but the people inside those tanks, the soldiers inside those buildings, would be exposed to lethal doses of neutron radiation. This is why it earned the chilling nickname, the capitalist bomb, a weapon that kills people but preserves property. The concept was largely developed in the 1950s and 1960s by American physicist Samuel T. Cohen, who argued that enhanced radiation weapons could stop massive Soviet tank formations in Europe without destroying entire cities. During the Cold War, NATO feared a scenario in which thousands of Warsaw-Pact tanks would roll across Western Europe. Conventional weapons might not stop them. Large nuclear bombs would devastate Allied territory. But a neutron bomb, that could theoretically eliminate the crews inside the tanks while leaving much of the infrastructure usable. From a purely military standpoint, it seemed like a cleaner, tactical nuclear option. But was it really cleaner? Radiation does not simply disappear. Neutron radiation, while intense and short-lived compared to fallout from traditional fission bombs, can induce radioactivity in surrounding materials. Metal, soil, and structures exposed to neutron bombardment can become temporarily radioactive. The area would not be instantly safe. Survivors, if any, would suffer horrific biological consequences. Acute radiation syndrome begins with nausea, vomiting, and weakness. Within hours, bone marrow failure may begin. The immune system collapses. Internal bleeding occurs. Organs shut down. Death can follow in days or weeks depending on dose. Unlike blast injuries, radiation sickness is invisible at first. There is no dramatic explosion tearing buildings apart. Instead, there is silence, followed by suffering. This psychological factor made the neutron bomb uniquely disturbing. The idea of a weapon that selectively kills life while leaving structures standing triggered moral outrage worldwide. Protest movements erupted across Europe in the 1970s when plans were announced to deploy neutron bombs there. Critics argued that such weapons lowered the threshold for nuclear war. If leaders believed they could use a limited nuclear device without destroying entire cities, would they be more willing to use it? The debate intensified during the presidency of Jimmy Carter, who initially postponed deployment under heavy international pressure. Later, under Ronald Reagan, production resumed as part of broader Cold War nuclear strategy. Yet despite the controversy, neutron bombs were never used in combat. Their power lies as much in symbolism as in physics. They represent a terrifying evolution in warfare, the attempt to refine mass destruction into something more precise. But can a nuclear weapon ever truly be precise? Even a low-yield neutron bomb is still a nuclear explosion. The blast may be smaller, but it is not insignificant. Buildings close to the detonation point would still suffer heavy damage. Fires could still ignite. Civilians would still die. In military theory, neutron bombs were categorized as tactical nuclear weapons, designed for battlefield use rather than strategic city-destroying strikes. But the line between tactical and strategic nuclear war is razor thin. Once one nuclear weapon is used, escalation becomes dangerously unpredictable. This is what made the neutron bomb so controversial. It seemed to promise controlled nuclear war, an idea many experts consider an illusion. Nuclear weapons do not exist in isolation. They exist within doctrines, alliances, and retaliatory capabilities. The moment one detonates, the world could spiral into full-scale nuclear exchange. So what exactly is a neutron bomb? Technically, it is a thermonuclear device optimized to release a high flux of fast neutrons while minimizing blast yield. Practically, it is a weapon designed to kill living organisms through radiation while reducing structural destruction compared to standard nuclear weapons. Morally, it is a symbol of humanity's unsettling ability to innovate new forms of lethality. But this is only the beginning of the story. Because to truly understand the neutron bomb, we must look deeper into the physics of fusion, the geopolitical chessboard of the Cold War, and the ethical debate that nearly split alliances apart. To understand what truly makes a neutron bomb different, and why it terrified both military strategists and civilians, we have to go deeper than headlines and politics. We have to step inside the atom itself. Every nuclear weapon, whether it is the bomb dropped on Hiroshima or a modern thermonuclear device, draws its power from the same source, the binding energy of atomic nuclei. But how that energy is released, and what form it takes, is where the neutron bomb becomes uniquely disturbing. There are two primary nuclear processes used in weapons: fission and fusion. Fission is what powered the atomic bombs of World War II. In fission, heavy atoms like uranium-235 or plutonium-239 are split apart by neutrons. When they split, they release enormous energy, more neutrons, and intense heat. This creates a chain reaction. The energy released produces the blast, the fireball, and radioactive fallout. Fusion, on the other hand, is what powers the sun. It involves combining light atoms, typically isotopes of hydrogen like deuterium and tritium, under extreme pressure and temperature. When these nuclei fuse, they release even more energy than fission. Fusion bombs, also called hydrogen bombs, are vastly more powerful than pure fission bombs. A neutron bomb is technically a type of thermonuclear weapon, meaning it uses fusion. But here's the crucial difference. Instead of maximizing explosive yield, it is engineered to maximize neutron output. In a standard hydrogen bomb, the fusion reaction produces high-energy neutrons, but much of the weapon's design is focused on converting that energy into blast and heat. The casing, tamper materials, and surrounding layers are structured to amplify the explosion's destructive force. In a neutron bomb, formerly known as an enhanced radiation weapon (ERW), that design philosophy changes. The outer casing is intentionally made thinner or composed of materials that allow neutrons to escape more freely. The goal is not to trap energy to increase blast pressure. The goal is to let neutron radiation flood outward into the surrounding environment. This means the explosion itself is smaller, typically in the low kiloton range. For comparison, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima was about 15 kilotons. A neutron bomb might be in the range of 1 to 10 kilotons, sometimes even lower. The blast radius shrinks, but the lethal radiation radius expands. And that is where the horror lies. Neutrons are uncharged particles. Because they carry no electrical charge, they are not easily deflected by electromagnetic forces. That means they can penetrate deeply into materials. Concrete walls that block heat and blast pressure offer far less protection against high-energy neutrons. Even armored vehicles, including tanks, can be penetrated by neutron radiation. Inside the human body, neutrons collide with atomic nuclei. These collisions damage cellular structures at the molecular level. DNA strands break. Proteins denature. Cells lose their ability to reproduce. Bone marrow, responsible for generating blood cells, becomes one of the first systems to fail. A sufficiently high dose of neutron radiation can incapacitate tank crews within minutes and cause death within hours or days. This was the military logic behind the neutron bomb. During the Cold War, NATO strategists feared overwhelming armored assaults by the Soviet Union across Europe. Thousands of tanks advancing rapidly across the plains of Germany posed a nightmare scenario. Conventional anti-tank weapons might slow them, but stopping them entirely would be difficult. A neutron bomb detonated above such a formation could theoretically kill or incapacitate the soldiers inside the tanks, leave much of the surrounding infrastructure intact, avoid massive firestorms that would devastate Allied cities. To some military planners, it looked like a solution. To critics, it looked like madness. Because even if the blast is reduced, the radiation is not selective in the way some imagine. Civilians in the affected areas would also receive lethal doses. Emergency responders would be exposed. Medical systems would collapse under radiation casualties. And there's another critical factor: induced radioactivity. When high-energy neutrons strike stable atoms in soil, buildings, and vehicles, they can make those atoms radioactive. This process, called neutron activation, means that even though a neutron bomb produces less long-term fallout than a traditional fission-heavy weapon, the immediate area can become dangerously radioactive. So while buildings might remain standing, they are not instantly safe to enter. This is one of the biggest myths surrounding neutron bombs, the idea that you could simply walk into a clean city after detonation. In reality, radiation levels near ground zero could still be deadly. The psychological dimension of this weapon was perhaps even more powerful than its physics. A traditional nuclear explosion is visually apocalyptic. A blinding flash, a towering mushroom cloud, a shockwave flattening everything in its path. A neutron bomb's destruction would look different. Fewer collapsed buildings, less visible ruin, but inside those buildings, silence. People dead at their desks. Soldiers lifeless inside intact tanks. Entire areas appearing structurally normal, yet devoid of life. That imagery fueled massive protests across Europe in the 1970s and 1980s. Demonstrators argued that by reducing physical destruction, the neutron bomb made nuclear war seem more usable. If leaders believed they could fight a limited nuclear exchange without obliterating cities, would they be more willing to cross that nuclear threshold? This debate intensified during the leadership of Jimmy Carter and later Ronald Reagan. Deployment plans became politically explosive. European allies were divided. Anti-nuclear movements gained strength. Yet despite production and stockpiling, neutron bombs were never used in combat. And here's something many people don't realize. The neutron bomb does not eliminate blast damage, it simply shifts the balance. Close to the detonation point, the explosion would still destroy buildings. Fires could still ignite. Vehicles could still be overturned. The difference lies in the ratio of radiation to blast, not the absence of blast altogether. It was not a clean bomb. It was a bomb optimized for biological lethality. Today, discussions of neutron bombs are often overshadowed by larger strategic nuclear weapons, hypersonic missiles, and modern delivery systems. But the concept remains one of the most chilling examples of Cold War thinking, the attempt to engineer a weapon that could surgically eliminate human life while preserving infrastructure. It forces a deeper question. If a weapon is designed specifically to kill people more efficiently, rather than destroy structures, does that make it more humane, or less? That moral paradox defined the neutron bomb debate. It wasn't just about physics. It wasn't just about military tactics. It was about whether humanity was crossing a line, transforming nuclear war from total annihilation into something calculated, optimized, and disturbingly practical. In the end, the neutron bomb became less a battlefield weapon and more a symbol. A symbol of how far science can go when driven by fear. A symbol of how strategy can drift into ethical gray zones. And a reminder that in the nuclear age, even attempts to limit destruction can produce new forms of terror.